Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on this Sunday evening, now that we have 4 on the floor for San Antonio, on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube. For those of you watching on YouTube right now, or if you're listening somewhere, but if you're watching, which most of you are, you can see I didn't bother putting anything on it. Like, I don't put makeup on my face, so I don't do that. But Taylor got me. I was on the couch last night, lying down on the couch, and she jumped on the couch from the other side and landed, and her nails on her paw got my face, as you see, and left me with 2 wicked scratches on my face. So my beloved Taylor got me last night. She got me pretty good. So that's what that is. I don't know how long it'll take to heal. That's the first time that's ever happened, but hey, what can you do? So that's where those 2 scratches came from. Sorry, that is not a more interesting story involved. We have the 4 ones. Okay. It might be more than an historical blip. It might be more a sign of the things to come. 7 of the 8 teams made the final 8. The one that didn't was St. John's. The 2s got beat by the 1s. The 3 got beat by the 1. The 3 was the only one that put up a really good fight. Let's be honest. Other than the Texas Tech game against Florida, the other 3 regional finals were just bores. Complete bores. There was nothing even redeeming about any one of them. There was never any doubt who was going to win the 3 games. I mean, Houston just blew out Tennessee. Duke just blew out Alabama, and it was early on that Michigan State couldn't handle Auburn Star, and obviously couldn't put a ball in the basket, as we know, from the perimeter, and shot terribly again, as most of these losing teams do. And a couple of people who were not crazy about the tournament, or at least are objective about it, because there's a lot of people who live the tournament, work the tournament, and will always tell you that the tournament's the greatest sporting event in the country. And this tournament is a tremendous sporting event. It's always been one of my favorites. I love it. I worked it for many years. Okay. I think I worked 17 NCAA tournaments for CBS. Some behind the scenes, some on the air. Tournaments lost some of its appeal. The upsets are what makes the charm of the tournament. The upwardly mobile teams make the charm of the tournament. And the problem we have now is this year just had a lot of rotten games. A lot of games where teams shot poorly, played poorly. Very few classic ball games. Texas Tech played 2 of them. They played a classic game coming back on Arkansas. They played a classic game blowing a lead to Florida. They played 2 of them. There were very few classic games in this tournament. Really, it's about as unexciting a tournament as I can ever remember. Now, we do have all 4 ones. And if you picked them, I have no regard for you, because hey, I could get somebody off the street, a stranger, to pick the favorite in every game in the tournament, and then would have come out with the 4 ones. Okay, that to me doesn't show anything. All right, that's almost a forfeiture when you're going to pick the 4 ones. The idea is to have a little, ingenuity, and in most years you need to. This year, the 4 ones got through, so be it. It happens. If you pick them, take a bow. What do you want me to do? Not really. Very few good games. Few good quality games. Now, we should have a good Final Four because we have 4 teams. You can make a case that any one of the 4 teams can win this. They're all 1 seeds. If they can't, they've all won 30 games. All right. As a matter of fact, most of the teams playing in the Elite 8 won 30 games. They all won 30 games. They're all 1 seeds. Duke obviously deserves to be favored. They've played better than everybody. Florida and Auburn showed you, a little bit of vulnerability here and there. Houston played the worst game all year against Purdue. And what I didn't know, and I haven't seen it reported anywhere, and I got this from someone close to the program, that Cryer played with a wicked flu on in the game where he went 2 for 13 against Purdue and still wasn't even near 100% today. And I don't know if they kept that secret. I guess they did because I watched both bowl games and nobody ever mentioned it. So I don't think they let it out. But they said he was really sick with the flu. He shot 2 for 13. He was better today. He scored 17 points. He wasn't himself, but their defense was tremendous and Tennessee was awful. And Tennessee isn't the type of team that's going to come from behind against a team like Houston. They didn't. And Houston rolled on. And I think Houston is a live underdog against Duke. I think they match up well. I really do. We have plenty of time to discuss that. So we have Florida, Auburn, know each other very, very well. Florida is a 2.5-point favorite. I made the game 1 before it happened. I made it 1. I made Duke 4. It's 2.5 Florida and it's 4.5 Duke. You knew Duke would be favored. First of all, they're the public team. Secondly, they've played better than everybody in the tournament. Houston has a legitimate chance to win that game. That will be the second game, Florida Auburn, which is to me an absolute toss-up. Is the first game. I mean, you saw Clayton come up with his heroics against Texas Tech. He was just sensational. I mean, very quiet in the first half. Had 2 points with about 4 minutes left in the first half, wound up going into the half with 8 points, and then came up with 22 points in the second half, including those huge threes at the end of the game. But the biggest 2 plays in that game was really 3 plays. Was Texas Tech missing the front end of 2 one-on-ones with the lead, and then they fouled when they were 1 second from forcing a 10 count. There was no way Florida was going to get the ball across the timeline. And they fouled and bailed them out with 2 free throws. Critical. Texas Tech has to be sick because they easily could have won that game. They didn't. Florida's here. So Florida, Auburn, complete toss-up. I can understand why people are going to favor Duke. They are. The presence of Cooper Flag, the talent on Duke, the way Duke is played, Duke's ability on both ends of the floor, et cetera, and so on. I think Houston matches up very, very well. We'll wait, and we got plenty of days before we do analysis on that game and on those 2 games. But we have a very competitive Final Four, and the tournament needs it. But let me mention for a second this idea of a harbinger of things to come. Because the way this is trending college basketball is we're going to have more separation among the top level of teams, whether it goes 10 deep, 12 deep, or even 15 deep, and the rest of the teams. There's going to be a tremendous have and have not because of the NILs. And if you are not a big program with a big revenue stream and a big power base, or you have an angel in your program who is willing to go deep into his pockets, if you don't have that, you can't go out and sign these players. I mean, St. John's is very, seems to be very agreeable to Lewis leaving, and he will either go into the draft or into the portal, and they know they're going to be able to replace him. They have the resources. They've already added Sano from Arizona State. They're talking to other big players. So they feel comfortable that they can clearly replace that. How would it be if Lewis turned around and wound up, say, at UConn next year for a year? Could happen. It's not crazy. How much Villanova is going to dip their toe in with Willard, we'll have to wait and see. As far as the NILs go, don't know where they stand right now. Know where UConn stands, know where St. John stands. You're seeing more and more that these upper echelon teams these brand names are going to buy the players, and you're going to get more of this heavy favoritism, fewer upsets, no real strong. See, mid majors got strong when they could develop guys over 2 and 3 years, come back with a senior laden team against a younger big name team, and where were your upsets? Those were your upsets. Easy T. Those were your upsets. And now you're not getting those. And let's be honest, a couple of mid-major coaches have depicted themselves as minor league managers now. If I get a guy and he's really good, I'm losing him to the parent club. Well, now if you get a good player and you're a mid-major, some big team's coming in to grab him with a check. That's just the way it goes. The Cooper Flags of the world are going to be number one in the draft. They leave after 1 year. But remember, he's been paid $3.7 million to play at Duke this year. That's why they're in the Final Four. BYU has a good team that lost to Alabama, but has signed the number one player in the country for next year. Number one recruit is at BYU. So you're going to get more of this, not less. And that's why the idea of expanding the tournament while this is going on, where the tournament gets more top heavy, is mindless. Why do you want to let more teams in and don't have a chance to play? Why? So the scores are even more inflated in the first round? There was no competitiveness in the 116 games this year. 3 teams won by a mile, and Auburn didn't play overly well, but still wound up winning by over 20. We are headed for more of this, not less of it. So expansion to me makes no sense. And a lot of the charm of the tournament is built into those first couple of rounds when Cinderella makes its run. Sometimes runs not just to the Sweet 16, sometimes all the way to the Final Four. Those are the teams that light up America. Duke doesn't light up America by getting to the Final Four. Everyone expects them to get to the Final Four. Okay, Auburn and Florida. All right, they and obviously Houston are thrilled, and their communities and their universities are thrilled to be in the Final Four. Do you think America cares? They don't. They don't. I don't like where this event is headed. And if you are an observer of this event, except for those that live for this event and work in college basketball and try to always tell you how dare you ever say anything about the tournament because it's by far the greatest event in the world. Well, you know what? It has lost something. I'm someone who has followed every tournament from the days of Lou Alcindor, when the tournament used to be. I used to watch it on TBS on Thursday night. It wasn't even on national television, the games. And then I'd watch the Final Four on a Thursday night, and then the championship game on a Saturday afternoon. That's how far back I go with the tournament. Yes, the championship game was on a Saturday afternoon. I believe it moved to Monday, and some historian can check me, but I believe it was the UCLA Memphis game, the Walton game, the classic Bill Walton, 21 for 22, 44 points against Finch and Dr. K and the Memphis team. I believe that was the first game played in prime time. I think I'm right. I could be off a year, but I think that's right. And that was Walton's junior year, not a senior year. Remember, senior year, he lost in the semifinals to David Thompson, Tom Burleson, Monty Tao and the great NC State team in that classic game in St. Louis that they lost in the semifinals. Remember the Walton gang, who went 30-0 as sophomores, 30-0 as juniors, and halfway through their senior year until they lost at Notre Dame, and the 88-game winning streak went by the boards, also lost 2 games that year at Oregon and Oregon State, what they called the lost weekend, and then lost for the 4th time. They didn't lose at all as sophomores, all as juniors, and then lost in the semifinals to the David Thompson, Tom Burleson, Monty Tao, NC State team of Norm Sloan that went undefeated that year. And I hated that game because John Wooden was not a believer in holding the ball. And he wouldn't hold it with a lead. And as soon as in overtime, NC State got a 1-point lead, they held the ball, which I hated. Really hated it because Wooden was a proponent of the shot clock. He did not believe in holding the ball. So they wound up losing that game. But the point being, we've watched the ascendancy of the tournament. It is not just a straight line up. It has had an incredible run. It really has. It's become an incredible. I go back to the NCAA tournament before March Madness even existed. I don't like where things are headed. I don't know how you can stop it, though, because this is a runaway train now. But when your team or your school goes to the Final Four, you don't care. You're just happy they're there, and you hope they win on Saturday, and maybe you're lucky enough to go to a Final Four, and I hope everyone does once, because Saturday at the Final Four is an event. Monday night's a basketball game. Monday night's a championship game. It's a basketball game. You hang around all day Monday. If you work the event, you work a lot on Sunday. You don't do much on Monday. You get to the arena like 5 o'clock. It's a 9 o'clock tip. And, you're waiting for a basketball game. And there's a tremendous turnover in tickets for the 2 teams that lose on Saturday. A lot of them get out of town. And remember, all the coaches go on Saturday, and then they're gone on none of them are there on Monday night. Every coach in America is there on Saturday. No one's there on Monday. They all leave on Sunday. Or 90% of them do. But Saturday, about a half hour before the game start, is one of the great scenes in America. It really is. 4 schools, their bands going crazy, the building's full, the anticipation. It's really something special. It really is. It's something that I hope everyone gets a chance to do once. Just like I hope you get to go to a Super Bowl, except now you have to take out a mortgage to go. Because the NFL is so, exceedingly greedy. They squeeze every dollar out of the event, and it has become astronomical to go to a Super Bowl. That's a story for a different day. All right. So the 4-1s advance. It's been kind of a ho-hum tournament. The chalk is on its way to San Antonio, and hopefully we get 3 good games out of it. That's all we can ask for. Can all 4 teams win? Would you be surprised if Duke won? Of course not. They're the favorites. Would you be surprised if Florida won? No. Would you be surprised if Auburn won? No. Would you be surprised if Houston won? No. So anyone can win. There's no big underdog here. There's 4 number 1 seeds, 4 30-win teams, 4 teams that have been at the top of the polls all year. So here we are. Now, the baseball season's only a couple of days old, and already we are embroiled in this enormous controversy. The Brewers, I'm sure, just can't wait to get back to the National League, preferably the Central, and get the heck out of New York. Now, the question is it their pitching that was just awful for this 3-game set, or was it the bat? Was it the bat? And is the bat legal? Everyone says yes. And who developed the bat? Where did this MIT physicist come from? And who uses the bat? Judge doesn't. Well, Judge is so good in the regular season. I know we have to throw that clause in the regular season that he doesn't need to change his bat. He doesn't need the super bat, or as it is now known, the torpedo. Already, orders have been placed all over baseball. Players can't wait. They're scurrying to get the torpedo. But exactly how many players use the torpedo? We have to take a roll call. The Yankees come off a 3-game set where they had 3 wins, where they scored 36 runs, where they hit 15 home runs. That is a little outrageous. So was it the pitching for the Brewers? Was it the Yankees are now the new Bronx Bombers, despite all the dire claims of spring training, as the number for total wins cascaded down? Is this team now going to shock the world? Are they the new Murderers Row? 36 runs. Judge, who didn't use the bat, he was only hit 4 homers with 11 RBIs, with a 545 base batting average, and a 2.461 OPS. Not over 1, over 2. How about 2.5? Chisholm, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a 417 batting average, and a 1.667 OPS. And yes, he used the bat. Goldschmidt, who now, since the Yankees don't have a leadoff hitter, is a candidate to be the leadoff hitter, had a homer, had 2 RBIs, hit 417. I know he only had 1 homer, but let's add him to the list because he did hit 417, and his OPS is 1.250. And then Bellinger, who had a homer, 6 RBIs, hit just a measly 400, which doesn't even get you in the first car in Yankee land right now, with a 1.057 OPS. And then some of the other guys who have meager batting averages and OPSs that don't burst through the decimals, but they did hit a couple of homers, like Wells and Volpe. So the Bronx Bombers flex their muscles. 3 wins, 36 runs, 15 home runs. Is it the bat? Is it the torpedo? Is the torpedo legal? The early returns say yes. Is it a weird looking bat? Yes. I never liked bottleneck bats myself on the amateur level. I used to use a JT 34, which was a Joe Torre bat. I didn't like, and I always wanted to use a Mickey Mantle bat, but I hated it because Mickey Mantle used a bottle, what we call a bottle top bat, very thin handle, very whippy with a big top, because he liked to whip that bat through the strike zone, and he used a very thin handle. I didn't like bats like that. I didn't like the Oliva bat, which didn't have a knob on the bottom. Okay, I liked the Rico Cardi bat, but my favorite bat was Joe Torre's growing up. Now, these bats are very thin and obviously take you've probably seen it already. I don't have to describe it, or Google it and you can check it out yourself. The point is, Major League Baseball says the bat, and I can tell you right now, I've never sat and read what bat specifications are legal or not legal. I can't tell you that I have. Couldn't think of anything more boring. They can tell me when the bat's legal and not legal. I know you can't put Super Bowls in it like they used to do. Remember when the Super Bowls came flying out? You might not be old enough to remember that. They used to hollow out the bat and remember the Super Bowl? Boom, boom. You know, that hard plastic black ball that bounced high. I don't know if they still make them. And do you know the Super Bowl the Super Bowl, the NFL Super Bowl, came about because of the Super Bowl. Lamar Hunt's son had a Super Bowl. The craze at the time, and he said, "Super Bowl? How about Super Bowl?" Voila! One of the great names in sports, one of the great tags in sports was created by Lamar Hunt, who was a very, very bright, very rich man, part of the Hunt brothers' fortune, and a sportsman in tennis. And he wanted to own the Dallas Cowboys and he couldn't. So he bought a team called the Dallas Texans. And since the Dallas Cowboys were going nowhere, he moved them to Kansas City and made them the Kansas City Chiefs in the rival league. And then tried for as long as he could to get into the NFL, which took him about 10 years, but he did it when they had a merger, thanks to Al Davis. And away we go. The Kansas City Chiefs, who have now dominated the sport, were born. Sounds like the Torpedo is legal. That's the early returns. How many Yankees have used it? I don't have a list. I'm sure there's one. We know that the Yankee does not use it. Word was, he's so good, he doesn't have to. Well, you know there's a snide answer to that. So that tax shouldn't fly because you know what someone's going to say who wants to have a retort. Well, maybe he should use the Torpedo in the postseason. Okay. We knew that was coming. All right. So there's always an answer about Judge. But Judge is off to a ridiculous start. His 3 home runs and 8 RBIs yesterday, another home run in the first inning today. Chisholm with 2 more home runs. He's already got 3, and he's got a Yankee Stadium home run swing, and he's going to get some cheapies because, hey, if you hit fly balls to right in Yankee Stadium, you get a lot of cheapies. You get a lot of, and that's the new craze. That ball would have been out in one park in the majors. Well, there's a lot of those at Yankee Stadium. You know that. There's a lot. Wells hit one on opening day. Boom, into the first row. Hey, that's only a home run at Yankee Stadium. Well, we know that. See, in the old days when there was right field, which was created obviously for a left-handed hitter by the name of Ruth, you had 461. Then 463, then 457 in left center, and then 402 in straightaway left. Cavernous if you didn't pull the ball. 407 in right center over the right center bleachers. 344 in straight right, and just a poke down the line. Whether it was 296 or 312, it's still a poke. So it's a very, very, and that's why I've always yelled about left-handed power because any Yankee fan worth his salt knows left-handed power. And how do you combat left-handed power? Left-handed pitching. So you've always, as a Yankee, wanted left-handed pitching in the starting rotation and left-handed power in the lineup so that you get a bunch of these cheap homers. And there's plenty of guys who have turned the right-handed swing, taking that one place where the ball does carry. There is a little jet stream at times out to right center field, as we know, at Yankee Stadium. And the friendly confines make it very much a home and haven. There are other home and havens in the baseball, and there are plenty that are more conducive in the gaps. But the old Yankee Stadium was very rough on guys. Tony Kubek told me in an interview once, "Hey, I saw Mickey Mantle lose so many home runs at Yankee Stadium because he really didn't pull the ball all that much, especially right-handed." And he said to me, if he played in Tiger Stadium, he would have had 1,000 homers. Now, 1,000 might have been a lot, but I get the point. It's regular fly balls, and I was at a game where he hit 3 balls over 425 feet. They were all caught. So I mean, I saw Harmon Killebrew repeatedly hit shots, especially off Fritz Peterson, that were caught 430, 435 from home plate. And I'm sure he wasn't thrilled because if I was hitting those, I wouldn't be thrilled either. So we don't know if it was just lousy pitching, Yankee hot bats to start the season, or was it the Torpedo? coming to I'm sure, a sporting goods store near you very, very quickly, and probably being dropped off and mass produced to major league teams as we speak. I already saw something that said some other player already came to the plate with the torpedo. So this is not just a Yankee thing right now, although it is something that seems to have emanated with the Yankees' early season success. And yes, obviously the Mets did not pack their torpedoes for Houston. Still can't understand why they were off on a Sunday, but hey, that's up to the Astros. They'll be in Miami tomorrow. It's way too early to get crazy about this. Let's see, first of all, how many players use these bats. Let's see if there's any reason that any materials that go into these bats are considered to be illegal, which they say there are no illegal materials in them. This is just about the shape of the bat and basically moving the wood up on the bat, so you're creating a better hitting zone at the top part of the bat. Now, I don't know in the long run how this works, to be honest with you. If you hit the ball off the inside of this bat, the ball's going nowhere. You're not going to get a handle hit over the infield with these things. It's not going to reach that far. I don't know what that means long term. But again, 3 days is way too early. But obviously, with the Yankees having a incredible 3-game explosion, I mean, 15 home runs, a record 9 home runs, 20 runs, 12 runs, winning the first 3 games. I mean, having a opening explosion at Yankee Stadium, and then hearing about this Wonder Bat, it would have made it a lot more of a sizzle. They would have put a lot more sizzle in the story if Judge had used the bat. He is not using the bat. I don't know who else. I don't have a rundown of who's using the bat and who's not. I know that Chisholm and Volpe use the bat. One has 2 homers, one has 3 homers. You know, Goldsman has 1 homer. Bellinger has 1 homer. I mean, that's not a big deal. You go down the list of Yankees right now, and you know their numbers are, they're amazing. They're overly impressive. But that's what happens when you score 36 runs in 3 games. You have a 20. You probably don't have a 20-run game all season. They had a 21 game followed by a 12-run game. I mean, they hit 15 home runs. I mean, that's a heck of a start. Nice way to get going. It happens. All right. So Judge has 4. It's the only other guy who's got 4 right now in baseball looking is Suarez on the Diamondbacks, has 4. Chisholm has 3. You got a lot of guys who have 2. Well, a lot of guys have 2 already. Volpe has 2. Wells has 2. So down the list, 15 home runs, 4 for Judge. That's a lot. 36 runs scored in 3 games. That's a lot, especially early in the season where a lot of times the bats are quiet. This was an explosive couple of days. And, you went into the season with the idea of Soto being with the Mets. You went into the season without Cole and without Heel and without Stanton, and there was a little negativity there and indecision there, and then all of a sudden this happens. It does not mean the Yankees are going to run off 110 wins. It does not mean they're going to score 1,000 runs. It does not mean they're going to hit 300 home runs. It's just a nice 3 games. And like I said, I'm sure the Brewers couldn't wait to get out of town, get back to the National League, and will be very comforted by playing the Royals at home on Tuesday night, I'm sure. But let's not get crazy about the bat story. But I have to admit, this Yankee start, coupled with the whole bat story, does make it an unusual start to the season. You love a little intrigue when it's why are the Yankees banging the ball out of the ballpark, and is this going to continue? And do you know how many home runs Judge is going to hit if he plays 155 games, and he hits a home run every game? He's going to hit 156 home runs. Well, he's not. You know that. He's going to have a 2-week span where he doesn't hit a home run because that's how home runs go. You hit them in bunches. We all know that. And the Yankees hit a whole bunch of them in bunches here. So don't get crazy. It is a nice start. They've been very quiet with their bats so far, but hey, it's only a couple of days. So let's not get absolutely nuts. The Yankees are the only undefeated team in the American League. In the National League, the Dodgers are 5-0. Well, what would you expect? The St. Louis Cardinals are undefeated. And San Diego, I know they're still playing right now against the Braves, they have them 2-0 in the 6th, looking to win 4 straight against the Braves, who could open the season 0-4. So already in the American League, everyone else is lost. And of course, yes, the Dodgers are off to a 5-0 start, but hey, that's what happens when you're supposed to win 10 games this year, which is what the Dodgers are supposed to win, or at least 105 or 6. So you're going to hear a whole lot more about this. The early reports are that it's legal and that there's no materials that were used in any way to take advantage or to elevate the flight of the baseball. That's the word that has come out. And we do know that Judge has not used one. But right now, the Torpedo rules. And the Yankees have opened up with 3 wins and 36 runs and 15 home runs in 3 games, which is quite impressive. They have added some excitement to a couple of days at the stadium. And I'm sure Yankee fans cannot get over their glee after 3 days. We'll see you later.